you down. I'll put you into a base.
All right, let me get my papers. This is the Nope, I was about to say Stand Up Dads podcast. Sorry, I was downloading an episode. That's your podcast, Rob. This is the Gag on This podcast, recording on Zoom. Zoom.com for all your Zoom needs. Let's see. I am Big Nick. I'm joined always by my Portuguese lover that is Rob.
Hello.
I'm joined by the Italian stallion that is Danny D.
What?
And we are joined by the hilarious Becky Lynn.
Super excited.
Feels good to be here in my house.
Right?
I got to say, it was really, Rob and I were introduced to you because you did the stand-up showcase for us. You featured on it with Morty.
She hosted.
That's right.
Oh, was it the graduation one at Blacktop?
Yes.
Yeah. I've done a lot of those showcases. They're fun.
They are. You definitely made it easier because I remember we were in the green room and you were just talking about being, calm up there, which really helped. I was still nervous as fuck.
Yeah, it's normal.
One thing I want to talk about is your sort of love affair with Emma Haney.
Oh, Emma Haney, that's funny. Yeah, we're very close.
Two peas in a pod.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I don't even remember. It's probably been like 4 years now, but like we met through Ben really before I had moved to Sacramento, and I think like over the years we've just gotten pretty inseparable.
Well, yeah, because part of the research is I combed through your social media.
Oh, okay.
And it was like every other picture was you and Emma, or Emma a picture of you. Oh,
yeah. We I think she's the only person that I really interact with on Facebook. Really, I don't post anything except for like promos for the show I run in Chico. So like whenever I look at my own Facebook, it's just like random Valentines that we've
yeah, that was one thing I definitely wanted to bring up right off the bat.
Our weird big mouth Valentines.
Hey, whatever works. You got to team up with, females got to stick together.
Oh yeah, no, it's real. Yeah. We talk every day. Like right now because she's still working, she's an essential worker. And so throughout the day, we'll like send each other videos just like as if we were FaceTiming. So we'll just give like updates every few hours. It's fun.
Speaking of females, you do a lot of all female shows, and I'm curious, and Danny, you can weigh on this as well when you're done smoking. What do you think, what is the importance of highlighting females in the comedy community?
I mean, I think that as performers, I would say that like it's important to remember that a majority of the shows that we do, audiences are typically 50% female. And so when there's like a whole half of a demographic that's like not necessarily being targeted or reached, I think there's a really big missed opportunity for like...
Because most people go on dates to go see comedy.
Yeah. So. And typically, and like a lot of people will bring this up, like it's the women that make the plans.
That's right. And so normally if there's not a woman comic on there, they're like, what the fuck, dude? If I wanted to hear dick jokes all night,
I'd stay home with my man.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So like I think that it's really important that like our voices, of course, should be highlighted just because, it's a different perspective, but also, it's important for audiences to hear things that may resonate with them. I think for me, I make it a huge priority, not just to highlight female voices in stand-up, but like really any marginalized voice. So like queer voices, people of color. I think that it's, really important just to get these point of views out there because like oftentimes when they're not being listened to, then, audiences also just aren't finding out that they could actually resonate with material of people that are so different. Yeah, that's where I come from with that. I personally have noticed that shows that are all women are so much more comfortable. Like the interactions in the green room are so much more comfortable. I did a festival at Comedy Spot last year, the Femme Fest. And so it was all women. We were all in the green room and we all had sort of like this moment, like this realization of like, oh, this is the safest we've ever.
Right?
Like, just like, no, like, I don't know, like we were just like so free and so comfortable, and it was a really like refreshing feeling.
Because I think most women in Sacramento, at least the interactions of my comic friends that are females, like we try to uplift each other and, you know, not necessarily like let our egos get in the way. There's not a big egotistical like women type thing. We all just try to support each other, you know?
Yeah, and we have to, I feel like, because it's just the nature of the beast that
guys don't do that for sure.
Yeah, no, they don't. Well, I mean, some of them really like to circle jerk each other, but
I don't know about those guys. But you know, I think the women in the Sacramento female comic community are way stronger than any male relationship, you know.
Yeah, super welcoming and uplifting, I think.
Yeah, we're better than you guys.
Well, I like how when you said circle jerk, Rob was just like shaking it like, yeah.
He's like, yeah, we like that.
That's why he got into comedy, you know?
Yeah. I'm jerking myself.
You said you do it best. I mean,
I am the best I ever had.
That's pretty sad. Pretty sad.
That is.
One thing I want to
I'd be really sad if it wasn't.
No.
What, if you weren't good?
I mean, people can get me off way better than I can get myself off. So, I mean, not all, but, you know, most, some, with a little direction.
What a fucking digression we just went on. How do you feel about, we had Keith Lowell Jensen on, and part of our show is we do the comic studio, and we asked them their favorite local comedian, and he listed you like right off the bat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
He had such respect.
A lot of people have said you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's wild.
Yeah, I think one thing Keith said is there's not many people that are just sort of naturally funny and can just get up there and knock it out of the park. And he was like, Becky Lynn does it consistently.
Oh, that's so nice. I love that. That feels good. That's great.
I like how
Becky, when I saw you open for Keith at Blacktop when he did his, I think it was his premiere of the Losing the Jobs bit.
Oh, Not for Rehire?
Yeah, that one. And I was sitting I was right in the front, sitting next to this old white couple, and you walked them. And do you remember that?
I don't. But I was told about it later.
And it was funny because I'm so fucked up in my head. I was thinking I must, you know, because I'm a big fat hairy guy. I'm thinking they didn't want to sit next to me or something like that.
Oh my God, it had nothing to do with you.
But yeah, it was because I think you were talking about only being limited to White Cock and Chico.
Oh yeah, they were. Yeah.
I think there were Mormon or something.
They thought that, what did they say? That I was vulgar and racist.
Oh, lovely.
You do the couple times I've seen you perform, like I've seen you been able to like completely just make it awkward and then switch it around to like make everyone love you. But like most people, you just get up there and you're like, yeah, I'm black. Like no fucking shit, right? Like we got it. And then you talking, like it's awesome how you started out with just like, this is it, there we go. And then you're just like, you're talking about like your Ben's 9-year-old and like how like, oh, she's so racist. I'm just like, oh my God, this is fucking great.
I really love the whole the concept of making like digging a hole kind of for myself, like making the audience just really be like, oh, I don't think we like her, and then by the end of my set being like, oh yeah, no, she's great. Like just really like I want to like make them not like me, and then slowly like
you've done a great job a couple times I've seen you.
It's a journey, and I'm grateful for it, but it wasn't always like that.
How long have you been doing comedy?
I just hit 5 years, like in September. I think I'm just starting to sort of like hit my stride a little bit.
Well, you just recently got passed at SF Punch.
I did, yeah.
Did you really?
I did an audition. Yeah, it was really fucking nerve-wracking, you guys.
Yeah, I'm sure. Was Ollie and Ron there, or who was?
Ron was there. Okay. And it was so stressful. That whole day. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm so glad it's over.
I went with Wendy Lewis the day she got passed, and she was just a fucking wreck.
Oh yeah, it's awful.
Fucking wreck.
There's nothing that compares to it. And what's interesting is that the day that I got my email booking me for my audition, that night I was also performing at the San Francisco Punchline, and Ron was there. So I walked into the green room and he was like, oh, I didn't know you were going to be here tonight. And then in my mind, I was like, oh no, was that bad? Should I have told him I'm not going to get my audition? Is he going to cancel it? What if I do that tonight? Like, is it even like, I was just like freaking out.
You never know with him sometimes.
I really didn't.
Yeah.
And then what was even more stressful was that after, like when I got my first weekend, he was the feature.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was so stressed out the whole weekend because I was just like, oh my gosh, if I don't kill it this whole weekend, like I'm going to get unpassed. Like this is like a second audition.
And the awkwardness that the comic, like, you know, just with that lady going, ha ha, and then her just like breaking it down. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
I forgot that was the show you were at when Jen Kirkman.
And I was sitting front row. Like I was like right there to the left of the table. And I was like, oh my fucking God. Oh my God.
That was a historic weekend.
Yeah, it was awesome.
All right, hold on for a second, guys. I'm going to admit Sharon.
Okay.
Sharon is on. All right, Sharon, you there?
I'm here. Sorry, guys.
As you should be. You just made my editing that much more fucking difficult.
You're fine.
Hey, Becky.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm now learning that you never let Auntie Vice let you sleep because you'll pass out and you'll never get up.
Okay.
Well, I thought she would have had you tied up or something.
I'm not going to answer that one. That's completely
That's on Friday nights, not Wednesday. That's on Friday nights. He's allowed to do the podcast on Wednesday.
Had to break out the toothpick out of the mountain.
Oh my gosh.
Lock myself out.
Man.
What up, Rob?
Rob doesn't give a shit.
He's in outer space, like most times.
No, I'm getting pauses here. The Wi-Fi is crapping out.
Oh, yes, it is.
And it just happened once Sharon came on.
Oh.
So,
it's his fault. It was all his fault.
I don't know.
So, Becky, I got to say, your episode was one of the most difficult to research because every 2 days, it's like you're on a fucking show. And I had to sift through so much shit and be like, all right, we got to talk about this show. And then I'm like, oh, but then there's this show. And then I'm like, wow. She was at a taping. Then I'm like, oh, she was traveling. Oh, so let's just focus on one comedy show you've done a lot, which is Duffy's Comedy Night.
Oh, yeah, that's my show.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, man, I love doing comedy at Duffy's. So when that was the first show, the first place I was ever booked on a comedy show was at Duffy's Tavern in Chico, which is also just like my home bar. I started stand-up in Chico, and that was like, once I grew up, I guess, a little bit past the college bar scene, and I was just ready to have like a towny bar that I went to where I knew the bartenders and I ordered the same thing and, you know, had my favorite stool. That was like Duffy's was it for me. And they've been doing comedy there since the 80s. Liz Mary and Aaron Standish, they're a married couple further up in the North State. And they used to do comedy in Chico in the 80s, and that they started comedy at Duffy's. And so they booked me on my very first showcase, and it was incredible to perform at my favorite bar. And then after a while, they sort of passed the torch to the Chico comedy scene. And the scene was running comedy there for a while. And then that didn't really work out. So they passed the torch to a really good friend of mine, Rachel Miles, who now lives up in Portland, Oregon. And before she had moved to Portland, she lived in New York. And when she had left for New York, she had asked them to like sort of pass the venue on to me. So I've been running comedy shows there for about a year and a half, I think.
Do you do them once a month?
I'm sorry?
Do you do them once a month or?
Typically I do bi-monthly because for a while I was also co-producing Femme.com in Sacramento with Emma Haney and Jamie Fernandez. Okay. And so I didn't really want to commit to running 2 monthlies and then not having time to like also do other people's shows. So we worked out that I was going to do every other month. And then right when we started to transition to doing a monthly show, you know, this quarantine happened.
Oh.
So hopefully once we get past this hump, it will be a monthly show because it'll be the only show that I'm running. And it's been so great. We've had so many good comics come through.
I love comedy in Chico. It's amazing.
Oh, it's a great place for comedy. And the
stuff.
scene has really flourished over the last couple years, which is, Dylan Collins is there and he's producing a lot of shows. And it's just doing really good work. It's cool to see sort of like a brand new comic like hit the ground running and really just like find and make stage time for himself. So I think he's doing like really commendable productions out there, and it's great to see that. But yeah, I've loved sort of like curating these really great lineups at Duffy's and, bringing comics that people ask for, but also making sure to like, again, like I love diverse lineups. So I think having the power to sort of, curate a lineup that really is just like representing all types of people and, bringing new comedy and comics just to people that don't necessarily know comics outside of Chico or like outside of Netflix. And so it's been a fun journey. I love it.
It's funny when you said I was on Netflix.
I'm trying to bridge the gap, right, between like local comedy and like super mainstream comedy.
There you go.
Yes.
So, did Portugal the Man really buy you drinks?
Yeah, I mean, not all of them, but Zach Carruthers bought me a drink at a concert in Sac. I went to a concert with Daniel Humberger and Johnny Taylor.
I was going to say, were you with Johnny Taylor?
Yeah, and Johnny's very good friends with Portugal the Man. He's friends with the whole band, and so we got tickets to go see them play, and then we went backstage. It was very cool. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And you saw Incubus, right?
Yeah. We went backstage for a little bit, and then Zach brought us back out to watch Incubus with him. And then he like took us to the bar, and
that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. It was cool. It was very cool. I was supposed to do Fresh 5 at Comedy Spot that night.
Oops.
And I canceled last minute. It's the first time that I've ever like canceled a show like hours before it happened. And it's Emma Haney's show.
Oh shit!
It did not go over well. She was not very happy.
She probably understood.
No, she didn't.
Oh man!
But we got past it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But
well,
yeah, it was cool. It was I had forgotten about it. So when I saw it on Instagram, I was like, oh yeah. And then I like scrolled through and I was like, oh, it must have been Daniel Humberger. Was he the one did he bring it up?
Yeah, he posted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about comedy and he was just like, yeah, so Portugal the Man just bought me and Becky Lynn drinks.
Oh yeah. He posted that night. I forgot about that. Yeah. And we actually it's on New Year's Eve, Johnny Taylor hosted for Portugal the Man in Oakland. So
really?
Ben and I were able to go see them play there. It's a lot of fun. They're really cool, really nice guys.
So it's not just a man, it's a band.
No, it's a band. Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, news to me. Are you a fan of Incubus?
No.
Sure.
I
can take them. I don't really.
Yeah.
Well, if you like white guys, I mean, you got to either like Incubus or Sublime.
Yeah, I fuck with Sublime.
There's a black guy on the group. God dog. There's a black guy in the group.
You have to like one or the other. If you like white guys, you can't just like any other band.
All right, fine. You can like Hall & Oates as well.
Or
I fuck with Hall & Oates.
Yeah.
I fuck heavy with Hall & Oates, okay? And that was well before I ever fucked white men. So I'm just honest.
So you've done hella comedy festivals. I mean, you've done Chico Comedy Fest, but you've also done Austin Comedy Festival. You've done, insert name comedy festival.
A fair amount, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Austin one that was what, 3 days long?
Yeah, Altercation in Austin. It was 3 days.
What's other than, performing in a comedy festival, what's some of the benefits of attending comedy festivals?
Networking.
The networking?
So, yeah. Meeting a lot of comics in a lot of different areas, and sort of like being able to, you like build friendships. And what I liked about Altercation was there was a lot of comics I probably wouldn't have met otherwise. And it was a cool opportunity to sort of like build connections with people, like in case I end up in that area. Like my best friend lives in Texas. She lives near Austin. So I stayed with her while I was out there. But it's nice because like, you know, if I have something to do sort of like in that area, like if I have a wedding to go to or like a, you know, bachelorette weekend or something, then like now I have, you know, more people there that I could sort of hit up and be like, hey, I'm going to be in town, you know, can you put me in contact with somebody that runs a show? So it's sort of like being able to perform in a different area, learn more about, you know, what that scene and what it's like. And then also just sort of like build a stronger network of comic friends.
And some of the comics we've had that have traveled said, stress sort of the importance of doing comedy in different states, in different cities. What do you feel are the benefits of doing that?
You start to learn what material you have that's like very specific to where you are. So I think that we can see that just like on a smaller scale, like in just in California, you know, the jokes that work in Sacramento that are like Sacramento specific are always going to land in San Francisco. Or like, I'm sure if you've seen, you know, comics in San Francisco, there's a lot of content that wouldn't necessarily work in other places. Like I remember when people were doing Uber jokes in San Francisco before Uber had made it everywhere else in California, and they would like, you know, I remember when I first started stand-up, there were comics that were coming through and doing stand-up in Chico, and they were doing jokes about Uber. We didn't get Uber for another 2 years.
Seriously? That's a thing?
Nice.
Yeah. So like they weren't landing because people were just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like we have taxis, and we had Uber is still not popular in Chico because of the taxi companies there. Yeah. So just like you start to learn like, okay, like what's specific to where I'm at, what's specific to where I'm from. I did a show in Marysville, Washington earlier last year. And I kind of had to like sort of learn like, oh, whoa, this is a different place. Yeah. And so, you know, there's some topical humor that's just not going to make sense to you guys.
I learned that in Florida. I was like, oh, okay, this isn't California.
You learn really quickly when you're not in a liberal place. That they work very differently.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's super important. And that's, I'm definitely always grateful to get out of town and to, you know, go to places even within California that just aren't necessarily within my comfort zone.
So let's go back to you getting passed at SF, because we had Mean Dave on, and he talked about that being one of the most stressful things to prepare for it. But he said he didn't do it until he felt confident that he was going to get passed. Is that sort of how you felt? Like you had confidence, like this is going to work, or?
No. No, not at all. Here's the thing is, I went into attempting to get past very presumptuous. So like I had, I think I was maybe like a year and a half in, and I like emailed Ron directly, and I was just hi.
Oh man.
I'm interested in an audition, please.
Oh my God. That's good. That's good.
And he was very kind. Like he was like, let me like walk you through the process. And he was like, I'd like to know more about you. Like, I'd love to give you an opportunity to showcase for us. And so he let me showcase at Cobb's, and I bombed. It was so bad. Really, really awful. And so, but it checked me. Like, it sort of like, it was, for me, it was a moment of, oh, this isn't something I'm even close to being ready for. So I sort of like put it on the back burner and was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on like being a better comic and, like really, nailing my stage presence, sort of just like understanding who I am as a performer and what I'm doing, what I want to accomplish. And then just constantly be thinking about how like being able to work at a club is like a huge priority for me. But I wanted to make sure that I was. So yeah, I guess I'm sort of like me and Dave, like I did want to make sure that I was ready, but I definitely I didn't really go to the Sunday showcase super often. The first time I went, Ron wanted to put me up, I think. And he came over to me and said hi. And I said hi. And then I looked at my feet and just just cowered. And he was just okay. And went to somebody else.
Right. He wants direct eye contact.
Well, I think in my mind I knew, but I was like, I can't go up here because it was the first time I'd ever gone. And like, if you've gone to the Sunday Showcase, you know that it's like a very overwhelming feeling when you walk in, and it's like every single comic that you've ever met since you started stand up is there. Yeah. And like, there's nowhere to sit, and everyone is shoulder to shoulder, and everybody looks at you when you walk in. And it's just like a very like stressful, overwhelming moment. The only reason I went the first time that I went was because I was doing Cheaper Than Therapy at Shelton Theater, and everybody on the show told me I had to go. They were like, you're here. It doesn't make sense. You have to go. And I was like, ugh. But
it's a good thing to experience, though. I mean, I go without any expectation of getting on because I know I'm not there yet. But like, just I can feel it. You know, you can feel it in the room. Like when he walks around and he's like, all right, you like, and it's like, and I know Ron, and I'm like, I'm not going to talk to him about it yet because I'm just not ready. But I get like really anxious around him, like, because I want to ask him questions, but I'm like, I'm not there yet. So it's
awful. Yeah. Even now, like I haven't gone there since I got passed. Like I haven't gone.
Really?
Well, we're all insane. Fuck it.
I don't go.
Yeah.
But it took me. I think I got up 3 times, and after the third showcase, so I probably did I did a couple Cobb showcases, but like when he had actually booked, I had followed up with him afterwards, and I asked him for feedback, and he told me, like, he was really honest, and he was like, this was one of the best sets I've seen you do at any of our clubs. And he was like, but, I do remember these sets. And he was like, these are things that I've noticed. And then he told me, he was like, just make sure that that you're getting as many hosting spots as you can. He was like, bonus points if they're longer sets. And so I took that, and he was like, does that sound good? And I was like, yeah, thank you so much for the feedback. That's exactly what I needed. And then I just like left it alone. So like after I got that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna work. I'm gonna get these, longer sets. I'm gonna host the fuck out of everything I can. And that's when I sort of like, I picked up another room in Chico for a little while. I was hosting a show there, and then I was hosting Duffy's, and then
because he sees all that. I mean, especially if you guys are Facebook friends, like he does check in on like, I know, to see if you're like listening to his advice, because he'll totally call you out if you're not. Like, oh well, I told you to do this, and you're not ready,
right? So, and that's what I didn't want. So I was just like, okay, so like I'm not going to focus on trying to I'm not going to reach out to him anmise like he's giving me the guidance that I need, so let me just. And that's what I did. And so I was, and I got some really good bookings. Like I hosted for Rhea Butcher at that Comedy Spot. I opened for Erica Rhodes at the Sophia. And then I did like a feature weekend at DNA's Club.
Okay.
In Santa Cruz. So I was just like working really, really hard to get these long sets because I knew that's what I needed. And, trying to get like host sets that I knew I could like learn what I needed to do, what I was, and try to figure out like, okay, like what is my job? What's my duty here? Because there is a big difference between being a good comic, being a consistently funny comic, and being like a really good host. And those are not always the same thing. So, my goal was to be a really good host because that was the job that I was essentially applying for. And so when I finally got my audition, like I knew I was going to be a good host. I knew how to do that. Like I had that down, but I also knew that I still needed to like back it with like being a good comic. And that's what made me like physically ill, but it was good. It went fine. And I'm grateful.
Would you say that hosting is something all comics should get into? Cause like you said, it gives you longer sets. It teaches you to be a good host. Would you say that's essential?
I mean, for me, yes. I think that all comics are different. I think that there's some comics that don't necessarily have like the energy or the vibe that's conducive to being a great host. But I think that's just really coming from like my perspective. I think that I think everybody should have the skill of being an MC in some capacity, just because like you need it for basically anything, right? Like if you're in a work meeting, it's good to know how to like speak with authority. Any type of like presentation, just being able to like command a conversation in general, like they're genuinely good skills to have. I don't necessarily think that every comic needs to be a good host, but I also like, I don't see it hurting anybody. Like it can't be a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it for our stand-up showcase.
I mean, it's hard to fucking host too, especially if like a comic goes up there and bombs and like the crowd's just like, boo, whatever. You gotta get attention back. So I mean, that's just a skill set in itself. I mean, I don't know a comic that wouldn't want to host. Like maybe some shouldn't, but they just gotta learn how to keep up their energy and command the room.
And I think that's the hard part is like, there's definitely times where like, I have to go host a show and I'm tired. Like with Duffy's, like I genuinely am excited every time there's a show. But like, an hour and a half beforehand, I'm like, okay, like what's this going to be like? How many people are going to be there? How much energy am I going to have to bring? Like how drunk are they already? Like there's so many things that I have to like, you never get to stop being a host. And that's what sucks. At least for me is like being like hosting and producing shows. Like it doesn't go away. Right. Like in the same way that like once you're a comic, like your comic brain doesn't go away. Like you just are always like trying to find ways for things to be funny. Once you host or produce, like you are always just like figuring out how a show is going. So like now whenever I'm on a show, I'm also just like, where's the stool? Where's the light coming from? Like, why is this order staggered like this? Like, I don't say the things out loud, but in my mind, I'm just like, these are all the things I'm noticing about this show.
Some of us can read them on your face.
Very expressive. Plus, you have to have the ear on the stage. You basically got to listen to what's going on with them. Got to listen to what's going on in the audience, and then try to use that for you sometimes when you come back on and just make that a present when you come up there and let people know that.
So you don't really get like a lot of downtime when you're running something because like you have to, if something's not working, like you have to be able to like figure out how you're going to turn it around. Like, what am I going to do? Like, it's a constant, just like mental gymnastics of like keeping momentum, but like making sure everybody still feels good. Your performers, your audience, checking in with them. Like it's a lot. I love it though. It's fun.
Well, yeah, because the first day, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, the first day of stand-up showcase, other than, getting to know each other and the fucking names and all that bullshit, the first stand-up 101 was pretty much all about hosting. Like, Keith was like, this is probably the most important thing because...
Well, he was big on never leave an unattended mic.
Mm-hmm. That's real.
He was huge on that, and I've seen it so many times, and it drives me nuts. But yeah, I mean, he didn't like go so much to say you need to host or anything, but yeah, it was all stuff that would lend itself to that. So
you learn how to use the microphone stand. Like so many people get up there and have no idea how to hold the mic, how to just talk in presence and like what they're looking at. Like I can see it. I mean, hosting.
Dude. I look at videos of myself when I first started doing stand-up and just like not knowing to move the mic stand. Like I had the, mic in my hand and I'm like fingering like the mic stand the whole time or like playing with the board, dragging it around, pacing back and forth. And it's so interesting because like now I see like really, really new comics do the same things that I did. And for the most part, I don't really say anything because I'm also like, like if you're watching your videos, like you're eventually going to learn like, what you do and don't need to do. And a lot of it is just like trial and error. But it's, oh man, I look back at old clips and I
was watching one of my first punchline sets the other day and I was like constantly, like my finger was just in my belt loop and I was just like pulling my pants up randomly sideways. Like, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why would I do that?
All the time.
Like, I'm like, oh my God, I look ridiculous. Like, And I'm like, why? I should take this off YouTube. Like, I'm just literally like pulling up my pants, telling jokes. Like, I was just like, oh my God, this is horrible.
It sucks.
And I never do that. Like, I never do that just regularly.
Oh yeah, but everybody has a tell. Everybody has something that they do. I touch the side of my face like right here. I do that a lot during my set. I try not to. It happens all the time. I don't know. But I've managed to like not really fuck with stuff on stage anymore. So
Rob, don't you keep your hand in your pocket?
I keep a hand in my pocket and I shuffle back and forth all the time.
Oh yeah, that'll happen.
It's pretty funny. It looks like he's rocking a baby. Like,
yeah.
Everybody has different.
That's exactly how I used to rock my kid.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I'm like, oh, he's like rocking a baby.
Everybody has like a different tell. I was having a conversation with a couple people about it. A lot of people have like the same tells though, like patting the front of the stomach is a really common one. A lot of people do that. I do that sometimes. I put my hands in my back pocket.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen with longer sets though. Where I just like, my body tells me that I need to be moving, but if I don't want to move my feet, then I have to move my body in other ways, I guess. I don't know. But it's interesting. It's just like an interesting thing. We all have quirks, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, we all do. I don't know what mine are because I don't
never go to open mics.
Pretty much. Sorry, I'm working on the radio. Jesus
Fuck
Christ.
you. I did that too.
God, dog.
It's not that hard. You ain't that special.
I'm
Wow.
All right. Well, I'm going to go cry myself to sleep now.
Aw. I love it.
So you mentioned the Femme Fest. Is that going to be a regular thing? Like a annual?
I believe so. I know that Melissa McGillicuddy and Bette Saida at the Sacramento Comedy Spot, they are the co-directors of that festival. And as far as I know, it is supposed to be annual. I know that they were supposed to do one this year. I think it got pushed out because of, quarantine or the stay-home order. But I do believe that they intend to do it, and I hope that it happens. And what I will say, this was what was really disappointing. What I noticed is I was at that. I think I only performed on one show, I think one or two, but I was there the whole weekend, and I saw 0 male comics at this entire festival except my boyfriend. I didn't see any
At Femme Fest. Yeah.
And it was so wild to me because any show that I go to at the Comedy Spot, there's at least 3 comics there, just hanging out, checking out the show, seeing what's going on. And I mean, this is improv, stand-up, sketch, all of it. There's usually
Ellis is there all the time.
Yeah.
Fucking,
and, he sits at the bar on his laptop. There are always a few comics hanging out at the Comedy Spot. Nope. Femme Fest weekend was a fucking ghost town for me.
Really?
It was wild to me. It was crazy.
Taco party.
I loved it. It was great. But it was just interesting to see sort of the division of support. Yeah. It was weird. It was weird to me.
Do you think there is a lack of support when it comes to all female shows as far as the male comedy community?
Yeah, I think that there's actually a lot of division within the comedy community in multiple ways. I think that there's not a lot of support for women. I think that the scene is actually pretty segregated when we get down to it. There's a, very much a Black scene that everybody likes to call the urban scene. And then there's what everybody else does, I guess. But there's, even less, there, if you really get down to it, it's divided in other ways too. I think that there are a lot of I think it's strange, but I'd say what I've noticed the most within the Sacramento comedy scene or community is that there is weird segregation that I don't fully understand, and there's
comedy spotters and then on the wires,
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I see a lot of people that frequent both, but I will say, I don't see a lot of people. I don't see a lot of the same people that I see at the Comedy Spot. They're not doing JB's Lounge or Touch a Class.
Yeah.
And so, nobody really talks about that divide, but I do think it's wild that there's that it's.
I don't go to Comedy Spot at all, really, ever. I've gone there twice, and I just haven't really had the best experience per se. So I go to JB's, I go to Touch Class. I personally like that crowd or whatever better, just because I can riff and do all that. But I do find that since I don't go to Comedy Spot, people are oh, you don't go to Comedy Spot, and it's I haven't had a good experience though, and
I think that everybody sort of has that in a lot of different ways. And but I also feel and I'm guilty of this too, because I will tell you, I bombed at Touch a Class 4 years ago, and I have not gone back to perform.
What?
I can't. It's it hurts my soul,
Yeah.
Kyrie and I won't speak on it because Kyrie is not here, but Kyrie and I had a night at Touch a Class one time, and I have not recovered. And so, but I also deal with, I think personally, I have a lot of insecurity when it comes to predominantly Black rooms. I think that they're just that for me, I that's sort of something that I've struggled with, just comedically, material wise. I don't always feel like I'm doing my best. I don't know what it is. There's something I don't always necessarily feel accepted. And so I definitely I've struggled with that in predominantly Black rooms. I've struggled with that across the board. I just had probably the worst bomb ever in February. And that was for an almost all Black crowd. And I just really, and I fell apart. It went so bad that I opened up the floor. I was so why is this going so bad?
I get you.
Yeah, it was just so I think even me, I'm guilty of not putting myself in spaces that challenge me.
Yeah.
Which I think is like a detriment to me comedically, where I just like, I know that that's my weakness, where instead of, you know, being like, I need to figure out how to do better in this room, or I need to figure out how to own who I am and just like speak my truth to a crowd that I'm fearful of, I guess, fearful of bombing in front of. And so because I'm not doing that, like I'm only doing myself a disservice. But I also like, I see that consistently kind of across the board in the scene where like there's a lot of comics that don't like to go to Laughs Unlimited because they feel like they don't do well there. And instead of trying to figure out how to do well there, they're just like, I don't need to fuck with it. And I get it, because like that's the same shit that I do when, you know, I don't go to rooms that make me uncomfortable. But I also just think that it's like to our own detriment. Right. I don't think that it's like I don't think it's a good habit. I think that it's something that in order to be a good comic, we have to outgrow.
Well, I mean, I would just like as much stage time as I can get in like 25 comics. And then, you know, you're the last one to go. Like, I don't have all night to waste. Time is money. Like, I'd rather just, you know what I mean? Like, personally, like just go somewhere where there's like 6 comics instead of like 26 comics, you know? And especially they can be super catty sometimes too. So it's like, everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely
everywhere.
There's some clickiness that exists with the comedy spot. Like I can,
well, and it's everywhere,
sure I can acknowledge
actually,
that.
You know?
Yeah. But I think that like that's everywhere. I don't really think that it's something that we ever really get to escape. So I guess like for me, like it's, you know, it goes back to just like challenging, like, you know, these places where if we don't feel wanted or if we don't feel comfortable, like that's all the more reason to like take up space there.
Yeah.
Because if we're not occupying these spaces, then essentially we're just like letting it be known, like, okay, I know that I'm not wanted here, so I won't be there. And like, what's even the point of doing stand-up if we're not occupying spaces if we're not challenging the right to like be in a space that we're not necessarily welcome in.
Rob, you got to blow your goddamn nose, dude.
Sorry, dude.
Every now and then she'll be talking about some like poignant and all I hear is
it's the Adderall and the nose hair. Hang on.
Sounds like quite the combo.
Well, you shouldn't be snorting your Adderall, buddy. Sharon, go ahead. I was just going to say, when Becky was talking about, you know, being in the black rooms and all that, you said something about I feel you.
I understand that completely, because just like people who do poetry and stuff with the mahogany and everyone, most people. There's some people that don't feel comfortable, even though they're black, don't feel comfortable being in rooms like that because of the, and just because they know how the ridicule comes out. It's like boo, go, that's it's like, you're like, dude, really? Like, nah, boo, get off. And you just, some people have tough skin that can take that, and you're supposed to come back, and you're supposed to keep on coming back and keep on taking it. But some people are like, dude, I can't. I'm done. Yeah.
I know, and that's how I feel. Is I'm just like, I know that I need to do it, but I'm also just like, how many times can I cry in my car on the way home?
Seriously.
See, I'm sick. I love the rejection. I'm like, oh yeah, boo me, hate me more.
Yeah, it does. But I think what I will say is that I feel like I have to acknowledge that there's like a racial difference with that. So like where you can go into a room like that and be like, yeah, you don't fuck with me, that's fine. Like, I'll keep coming back. Like I go into a room like that and I'm like, oh, you're my people and you don't fuck with me. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm not meeting your expectations. Yeah, and that is a problem. Right. So there's like this whole, different experience of like, what, like, oh, I'm doing so bad that like, hi, you and I share the same experiences and you're still just like, no. Right. And that's hard. Like that's a real crush to like the identity.
I was gonna say since you not only have challenges with that, how you been challenged with the whole in shelter in place type of thing? Have you done shows and stuff?
I have actually made it a point to not do any Zoom shows. I have been offered and I have just sort of like really respectfully just declined. The most recent message that I sent was just like, like I was just really like vulnerable and honest, where I was like, I'm in this space with stand up right now where like, this isn't the way that I want to perform. I just don't think that that's something, at least not at this point, that's not something that I'm comfortable with. I don't, as much as I love stand up and as important as it is to me, I don't like feel upset about not doing it yet. Like, I think for me, like, I'm really grateful for like having this opportunity to sort of like, kind of like explore my own creativity in different ways. So I'm definitely like, I'm not just like sitting around doing nothing. Like I do, you know, I'm working on a project that I'm like really excited about. And, I'm still writing. I'm still like, I'm definitely still like cranking out material, but I don't have this urge just to perform. Like,
it's not the same anyways. Like it's totally,
yeah. And I
totally different.
Yeah. I don't feel compelled yet. Yeah. You know, I might, if it's shelter in place in another 2 months, I might be like, yeah, give me all the Zoom shows I need.
If it's shelter in place in 2 months, man, I'm going to go on a riot. I'm going to just run. I got to get the hell out of, I got to go.
Well,
I mean, I'm such an introvert. Like I'm chilling.
Man, I'm miserable. I'm so miserable.
I'm an introvert too, but this is getting a little ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
I'd love it if I didn't have the wife and kid around.
Yeah, I hate it, man. It's really hard being single and being locked down.
Yeah, I see. And that's what, I mean, I also have to like be, you know, I have to acknowledge that like I'm with my boyfriend, we're in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. Like we don't share the same bathroom. Like we have different workspaces. So like, we're fine. We don't have any kids. We have a cat. Like it's okay.
That's actually good because I was watching Chrisley Knows Best yesterday and he said their marriage worked great because they don't share bathrooms.
I think it's the most important. Yeah, I really do. It is the most important thing in a relationship. If you are living with a partner and you can have separate bathrooms, have separate bathrooms.
Well, now,
why do you think that's so important? Why is that so important? Like,
I
is
like
his bathroom
it.
A mess? Like,
I mean, it's not the cleanest, but that's not why I like it. Because if we shared a bathroom, like I would just make sure the bathroom was always clean. Mm-hmm. But I think that I like having my space. I think just like being like, I won't say that I'm like a high maintenance woman, but I'm definitely not a low maintenance woman, right?
Well, here's the question. Who has the master bathroom?
I do.
Probably her. Yeah. Have you met Ben? She has it.
Well, and I have like a lot of products and a lot of makeup, a lot of hair stuff, I like things a particular way. I like my water pick and, a certain
your water pick. All right.
I like how she's like, I'm not high maintenance. I got a water pick.
Right.
Yes. I like to floss, but no, I like it. And I also just like, I enjoy not having to listen to him shit.
Yeah, I could see
That's
that.
the worst.
I like that a lot.
If you do something about the smell, that'd be all better. But yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, not a good time.
But I think that it's really important to like have, I mean, if it's possible, like obviously like, sharing a bathroom is fine. I have done it before. We lived in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment and it was okay. It wasn't the end of the world, but there is something to be said for just having, like, I like having my stuff in my shower. I like keeping my bathroom as clean as I want to.
How long have you guys been dating?
We're going to be 4 years. It's been 4 years. It'll be 5 years in, I think, December.
Oh,
Nice.
So it's been cool. It's been fun.
Now,
I mean, to be quite honest, when I first met Ben and then I met you, I think I met you and Emma the same night, and then I met Ben. I thought you and Emma were in a relationship, and Ben was just like your sidekick. And then I was talking to someone, and I was like, I just met Becky and Emma. Like, they're the cutest couple. And she was like, no. Like, she's dating that guy, Ben. And I was like, oh, really? Like, I had no idea. Like, I thought the two of you were just off.
You know what? Fair enough. Like,
I mean, come on. She's giving you Valentine's.
I know. No.
She's taking random pictures of you.
Right? She has more posts with Emma than she does Ben.
Wow.
I truly do. That is the honest truth. Does
he ever get jealous? Is he ever like, Emma? Like,
no, it wouldn't do him any good if he did.
Yeah, if you had to pick, you'd pick Emma for sure.
But and then well, she also lives pretty close. She lives like maybe 7 minutes away.
Oh, that's cool.
So like, yeah. So on the weekends, like I would go over to her house and we'd have like, before I quit smoking and before I stopped drinking coffee, like we would have coffee and cigarettes like every Sunday, every Saturday or Sunday.
You don't drink coffee?
No, I stopped drinking coffee. I stopped drinking coffee about...
And smoking cigarettes at the same time?
Ago, and I quit smoking cigarettes about 2 months ago.
Are you insane? Like, why would you quit both of those
Why are you
vices
like
at one time?
Damn, are you insane? What the heck?
I think it was time for me. I've been smoking cigarettes since I was 17.
Oh, okay.
I just turned 30, and so it was time. My gums and my teeth are all fucked up. So I was like, well, if I want to get new teeth, I need to make sure that I'm ready to make the commitment, you know? And then with coffee, once I stopped drinking it, I realized I don't really like coffee. I just like how it makes me feel. And so like some people genuinely enjoy like the taste of coffee, like the ritual. And
I like white girl coffee. Like my coffee is super basic bitch white.
What?
Like,
Super basic bitch.
so you like sugar?
yeah, I don't drink coffee.
Candy bar in a cup.
honestly. Like diabetes for sure. Just give it to me right now.
I mean,
Fine.
once in a while, like I'll have like a caramelizer from Dutch Bros, but like I drink a lot of tea. I drink a shit ton of green tea. I love yerba mate if I need like a kick, you know. But yeah, I mean, coffee. I also don't have a very good gut. I have a lot of gut issues, so and coffee is super acidic, and so I just cut it out.
Well, green tea also has more caffeine than coffee does.
Yeah, it does.
I used to drink that shit and just get spun.
What I used to do, I stopped doing it once I started working at home, but I have like a glass bottle that has like a tea diffuser. So I would cut open 2 green tea bags and dump them into the diffuser.
Damn.
You'd just be spinning.
And then, so I was fucking wired. Like every morning I was just like, yeah, this is great. I love my job.
Hardcore.
Yeah. I had to stop drinking Red Bull at the house because I was like stuck in the house doing nothing, like just pacing. I'm like, I gotta stop drinking these energy drinks. I have nowhere to go.
It's not good.
Yeah, what's the point?
Right? I bought a bike. I've been riding my
There you
bike
go.
around.
What, did you buy a bike on Red Bull? Like, what the fuck?
I bought a bike at Walmart. I fucking went home and rode it, put it together. I'm super proud of myself. Exercise.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I only crashed like twice. I'm good, doing great.
I'm so scared of bicycles. I can't. I've tried.
I look like an idiot on that bike, but it's okay. It's fine. Whatever. Whatever. I fell the other day and this guy was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Just don't talk to me.
Yeah. Like, please just let me
No one saw
experience this alone.
Yeah, so I won't ride my bike in that neighborhood anymore.
Now
Right?
you're from Chico, right?
I am not. I am actually from Patterson.
Oh, okay.
Which is
Where's
over by
Patterson?
Modesto. I moved around a little bit. Well, I was born in Fremont. I was born in Oakland, and then I lived in Fremont till I was like 7. We moved to a ranch outside of Patterson, and I lived there. And I moved out when I was 19, 20. I moved to Chico when I was 20.
Were you adopted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where in Fremont did you live?
I lived at Bayless Street in San Padre.
Okay.
right across
I went to Kennedy High and stuff. So
Oh, you did?
Ah,
no.
I would have, but I didn't. I went to Durham Elementary, and then I got pulled out because I had an abusive
Ooh.
teacher.
ouch.
Jesus.
And so I got transferred to Matos Elementary.
Okay.
But
Now was that a culture shock to go from the big city? Was that like a Green Acres moment kind of thing?
it was to be honest. So I've been like working on material about this actually. Because I went, so like we lived in like a, you know, like a really like Fremont is very diverse. Like it's a very diverse place to live. Like all I ever really knew, except for my parents, like all I really knew was brown folks. Like so like that was weird, was like moving to the country. Like there were no Indian people. And I was like, what the fuck is this? But like, we didn't just move to the country. Like we moved to a ranch that was like 17 miles away from the grocery store.
Oh, damn.
And we had no conventional electricity. Like we were like generator operated until we got solar power. Damn. We had well water. Like we hung our clothes outside. Yeah, it was less Green Acres and more like Little House on the Prairie. Like, it was a lot. It was a lot, you guys. I'll be fine in the apocalypse, so I learned good skills, but it was I couldn't go back.
I'd be fucked.
It's weird. It's not I don't like it.
Did you guys have any animals on this ranch?
Oh yeah, we have even now they're still, well, we're trying to sell the ranch now, but chickens, goats, We had horses, not anymore. Turkeys.
Can I put some tigers on that ranch?
Absolutely not.
All right.
But honestly,
Damn it.
I would have loved it. My brother did once have to get a permit from the Department of Fish and Game to kill a cougar.
Oh.
So my brother legally shot a mountain lion because it was killing our goats.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
That's impressive, I guess. I don't know.
Not really.
I don't know.
But it's a story that I like to tell really conservative people to like get them on my side. I personally actually think that it was kind of shitty because, you know, the mountain lion was there first. But whatever, you know.
Whatever works.
But it was cool. I will say, like, grew up with a lot of guns. I love to shoot. I like to four-wheel. Like, I was definitely like, I really was like a country girl. I showed in fair. I was an FFA. Like I did the whole fucking shebang. It was cool. I don't think that I bought fruit from like an actual grocery store till I moved out because I was so used to like, because like in that area, like, you know, you buy from like fruit stands, you buy fruit from like the side of the road. Yeah. And so like, I remember the first time I bought an orange from a grocery store and I was like, this is trash. Yeah.
So true.
And why didn't someone cut it up and offer me a piece before I bought it? Like, it didn't make sense to me.
So what's your favorite gun to shoot?
I don't have a favorite, to be honest.
Whatever. She could be like AK-47 with a bump stock.
Absolutely not. I don't like anything with a lot of recoil. I can't. It stresses me out. I don't like to feel pain.
Yeah, that shit hurts, man. That shit hurts bad.
I can't. No, I never really had a favorite. It was just
a 9mm. What?
Whenever my dad was like, "Okay, let's go," because he was very much like gun safety is important. Like all of my kids need to know how to shoot. And that's what's really strange is like, you know, I think I identify as like a pretty like liberal person. It's like very in line with who I am. But I fuck with guns. Like I think that everybody should have a gun. I think everybody should know how to use a gun. I think it's important. But I also don't believe that anybody's coming for guns. So
fuck, I wish I could pull that soundbite of Becky just being like, I fuck with guns.
I do, man. I really do.
So what so there was the culture shock of moving from Fremont to your ranch. Mm-hmm. Was there a culture shock moving from Chico to Sac? Oh yeah. I mean, I think the difference from moving from Chico to Sac was that, first of all, drinking in Sacramento is very expensive. When you live in a town that is predominantly alcoholics, you don't realize that alcohol costs a lot more everywhere else. So that was a huge change. And also just like the access to things, you know, a majority, I lived in Chico for 6 years. And I didn't have a car until like the last year that I lived there. So like I walked everywhere. I worked at McDonald's for a lot of the time that I was living there. And that was like 1.5 miles away. So I walked 3 miles every day, like to and from work. And I was chill with it. I was just like, yeah, like I have legs, they work, I'll use them. Like I didn't, you know? And so it was very interesting, like moving. We lived in Midtown, so like that was pretty cool. It was like being in a central area, but just like you know, there's like a lot more culture than there is in Chico. A lot more entertainment, and it was like I loved it. I was super grateful. I was really happy. But now we live in Roseville, and you know, fine.
Of course you live in Roseville. Jesus.
I mean, it's a hell of a lot cheaper than Midtown.
Yeah,
yeah, it's still fucking expensive, but yeah, it's cheaper.
Yeah, it is still expensive.
Oh, I remember the question. What brought you to Sac?
Ben. I didn't really have. Yeah, I know, so cute. But also, like, the comedy scene is way better.
I like your response. You're like, oh, I know, so cute. Yeah.
No, like we were dating for about, well, okay. I was a live-in, I was an IHSS employee, in-home support. Is that in-home support?
In-home services support or
in-home support services. In-home support services. Yeah. And I was actually like caring for another comedian in the scene. Yeah. I won't name her because we do not get along now. But I moved into her apartment, and her lease was up, and she was getting ready to relocate to Southern California. And I was sort of like up in the air about what I was going to do, because Ben and I had just started dating. We've been together for like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months. And I didn't want to like try to find a new place to live in Chico, because it didn't really make sense, because at the time I was driving like a diesel Suburban. So I wasn't trying to be like going back and forth between Chico and Midtown Sacramento.
Damn, you are a country girl.
Truly. My brother got me that truck and I fucking loved it. I sold it. He doesn't know.
Oh shit.
But yeah, so I moved out. I moved in with Ben's sister over near Elk Grove, and I lived there for a few months, and then she sold her house, so I had to move again. And then I moved in with Ben in Midtown, and then we moved to Roseville after his lease was up there.
Nice. All right. Before we get into the comic studio, I do got to ask, what was it like performing for the 1025 Cap City Comedy Slam? Because I got to say,
oh, that's dope. I didn't know you did that.
Oh, yeah. She shared the stage with Johnny Taylor and Mike Winfield, right? Yeah. See, I do my research. I know.
It was very cool. That was probably the biggest crowd I've ever performed for. It was a really exciting opportunity. I love it because like I was able to like meet people that work at the station, which is very cool. Mia Moore is now a good friend of mine. We meet up pretty often for cocktails. She is just the best. Like truly, I adore her. But it was a cool opportunity because I was able to like go into the studio. I went on air with her. I got to read copy and
just networking, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was really good networking. But also like, the Crest is such a beautiful theater. Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. It was very nerve-wracking. I will say, not my best performance. It really wasn't.
How long ago was this?
Oh, a year ago?
Yeah, I was working for the station. So yeah, this was 2018 or 2018, I think, not 2019.
Okay. Yeah, it might have been. So yeah, it was like probably a year and a half.
Yeah, because Big Mike, which I don't know if you know this, Big Mike, he used to be the program director for a comedy station.
Yeah, so in Denver. That's how he knew Johnny. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the fact that he picked you should really elevate it because he's done so much in comedy.
Did he ask Johnny? And then
Johnny. It was through Johnny.
Well, all right. Fuck what I just said.
No, I'm just trying to be honest. Like, I would love to be like, yes. Well, actually, I am a very accomplished stand-up comedian, and I did this all on my own. No.
It's all in your connections.
I did have Johnny's recommendation, I'm funny. Like, I deserve to be there, I think. But yeah, it was a really cool experience. They gave us little like goodie bags. It was a lot of fun. And it was cool to, on that scale, sort of like meet fans and like hang out and just like, it felt like it was a real like first time experience that I was super grateful for.
Was it pretty packed, the Crest?
Yeah, I would say when I went up, it was about almost 2/3 of the way full. And awesome. By the end of the show, it was about 3/4 of the way full by like after intermission.
Ooh.
So
yeah, and the Crest, that's got a shit ton of seats in it, man.
Yeah,
it does. Yes, it does.
So even a 2/3 crowd,
I mean, that's just fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a lot of fun. And
Mikey's fucking awesome. Like, we have him on Monday, and I can't wait. Like, I haven't seen him in a couple months, but he's just fucking awesome. I love him.
He's so delightful.
Yeah.
All righty. So now it is. Have you listened to the podcast at all?
No.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, be honest.
I mean, I don't listen to Ben's podcast either. So.
Oh.
I know. I hope you didn't hear that.
Do you like beer as much as he does?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes it easier.
I really like beer.
What's your favorite?
It used to be Pyramid Apricot Ale was like my favorite. But to be honest, like my go-to is Lagunitas IPA. Mm-hmm. I'm not like as much as I love, like I do love, craft beer. I love a sour. Consecration is really good. Russian River Consecration is probably one of my favorite sours. But like Lagunitas IPA is just like always my go-to. It's delicious. It's refreshing.
So when you go out with friends, do you use some of Ben's like vernacular? Like, oh, the mash on this is really tilted. This is delicious.
No, I mean, I was pretty into, because like I did live in Chico. And so like when I first started drinking beer, like I was drinking like really good beer. So I have like my own like fair share of knowledge, but I don't love it like that. But I am known to like when Emma Haney and I go out, I always pick her beer for her.
Oh, dropping the Emma again.
So she's gotten like really like experimental though, because when we first started like hanging out, she really didn't stray much, and now she'll order an IPA every once in a while, and she'll be like, oh, I like this.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're a bad influence.
I'd like to think I'm a great influence, but also you're not wrong. Yeah, I'm I have my moment.
All right, so we do this thing called Inside the Comic Studio.
Brilliant.
Yes. Before we get into it, it's sponsored by Ballsy Brand Ball Wash and the Ball Guard. Use promo code GAG15 and you'll get 15% off your entire order.
Woo!
What? So what we do is we ask all comics the same 5 questions. So question number 1, first joke that landed well.
Oh my God. Oh fuck. I think the first joke that landed well was I don't even know if I have done this in a long time, but it was about being adopted. It was my Burlington baby joke. About
what?
Oh my God. It was about being adopted. Like I used to get bullied a lot for being adopted, which is wild because like my parents chose me and yours were stuck with you. And yeah, I used to think that I was like very special for being adopted until I found out that adopting non-white babies is like a lot cheaper.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is. Actually, if you look it up, the statistics are unfortunate.
Wow. Shit, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. So the joke was essentially like, this is how I envision it happening. Like my parents were, perusing the aisles of Burlington Baby Factory. And, they walked by like, this is such an awful joke. I haven't told it in so long. But they walked by like the blonde hair, blue eyed white babies. Like we can't afford those babies. And then they walked by the Asian babies and they were like, those are still pretty pricey. They went to because I also had a joke about I was born during an earthquake. So I had like a shaken baby joke. And so I did a callback to that joke where I was like, and then there was me like in the clearance bin,
shaken baby,
like 50% off, like minor imperfection, previously shaken.
That's great.
That was my first like joke that really landed. I don't tell it anymore unless I'm doing like a 30-minute set.
So you were born during that big earthquake in the Bay?
Yeah, Loma Prieta. I was born in Oakland. I wasn't born during the earthquake, but the earthquake caused my birth. I wasn't. Yeah.
Shit. Well, it was pretty intense. I do remember that.
That was a big one.
All right. Favorite thing about the local comedy scene?
Ooh, my favorite thing. Right now, my favorite thing is that there are a lot of women coming up in the scene. There's a lot of like newer women that are really like, making a name for themselves, that are doing cool and experimental shows. Maria Musavi and Ruby Setnick are
Ruby's amazing.
They're so funny, and they're doing, they're just like these really cool, like alternative style comics that I love. I've been consistently, like when I have made it out to mics, have just been seeing a lot of funny women, I love that. I love anytime I can see, more women doing stand up. That's my favorite thing about the SAC scene right now.
All right. Now, something you dislike or would like to see changed in the local scene?
Less men. I would love to see less. I'm just kidding. No, that's not true. I would love to see, I think, like a little bit more unity. So I would like to see like we touched on before, I would love to see people sort of like push outside of their comfort zones to go perform in spaces that they don't necessarily want to perform in.
So I'll take you to Touch and you'll take me to Comedy Spot?
Yes, we'll do it. Yep.
All right. Favorite local comedian?
Oh, that's so hard. Right now, my favorite local comedian has got to be Robert Emoto. Man, I love him. He is just
Yeah. He was doing the live Instagram for laughs today or yesterday.
Oh my God.
It's so funny.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
He's so consistently funny in everything that he does. Conversationally, he's hilarious. But he's also, my favorite thing about Robert Emoto is that he is like an incredibly paranoid human being.
Oh yeah.
He is so paranoid about everything. And so he is like my favorite person to troll. But I really do, like, I genuinely enjoy watching him host. I enjoy watching him perform. He has an energy that, I haven't seen. I think it's incomparable to anybody that I've seen in the scene. And I'm excited to see, what he does. He's great.
Good.
Yeah.
And lastly, advice to new comedians.
Oh man, honest advice I want to be like, don't do it.
We've had a lot of comics say that, by the way.
Yeah, I won't, because the world can always use more laughter. I would say the most important advice is like those first, 6 months to a year, write everything, all the things, don't stop. Really just like capitalize on like that excitement and that passion and everything you feel, everything you think might be funny, like write it all down. Because I did a lot of that when I first started, but I should have done it more. And even if you don't think that it's funny, like once you, become more aware of like your voice and like what you want to convey to your audience, like you can go back to that stuff that you wrote down and really pull some gold out of it. So you'll want it, just shove stuff in the vault until you are ready to make something better out of it than you will right now, because I promise you're not as good as you think you are.
Right?
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. Plug social media or anything you want, really.
Okay, cool. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Venmo at That's Becky. That's OHTHATSBECKY. And for I have not taken down my upcoming shows yet on my website, but I will get on that. But you can check out my website. That's that'sbecky.com. I do have like a longer set on my website right now. So if you have never heard my comedy before, if you're interested in it, definitely go check it out. Send me a troll email. People love to do that. And I won't respond, but I will read it.
All right. Danny.
Yeah, you can always find me on IG, Facebook, Venmo, Cash App at Rad Chick Forever. I literally have nothing going on with my life but this. So, yeah, there we go.
All right, Sharon.
You can find me on Iambic Poetry Podcast and Venmo and Cash App. You can be AS Product.
Copy our style.
AS Product if you want to get that money up. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But no, yeah, check us out.
You're not going to spell out iambic?
Iambic, IAMBIC. That's IAMBIC.
I just want to fuck with him because we had Marcus Mangum on and he started to spell it out, and Marcus gave him so much shit for spelling it.
Hardcore.
Because it spells exactly how it sounds.
Yeah. Am and big.
Yeah. I don't know. There's someone out there that's going to add a K and be like, I can't find it.
Sure.
I think it's good to spell it. Okay.
Go.
Rob, what do you got?
Get my side project, Stand Up Dad's podcast. I do that with my buddy Mike. We talk about parenting issues, and new episodes come out every Sunday.
All right. And then follow me on Twitter at @TheBigNickJ. Email us, gagonthispodcast@gmail.com. If you want to be a guest during this quarantine time, we're booking 2 episodes a week. Website, gagonthispodcast.com. Episode description will have the show and guest social media. I usually do that at the intro, but I fucked up the intro today, so I'll just get that out of there. One thing I do want to end on, it's kind of a serious topic, and I just want to bring it up because, like you've said, you've done the Femme Fest, you've done all female things. What would you say to someone, and I used to say this, like I used to say, why do we need an all-female comedy show? Like, what would you say to someone that has that belief and that reaction?
I would say that just personally, like my experience as a female in stand-up, like I've been sexually accosted on stage. I've been sexually accosted in green rooms. There's definitely been moments at shows, after shows, and before shows where I have felt personally unsafe. Not to say that I think that like all male stand-ups are predators in any way. I don't think that that's necessarily true at all. But I do think that there are so many times where we don't feel safe as women. So to really just like to be able to be in a space doing what we love and feeling secure and safe, like to just know how that feels, because I think for a lot of men, like that's not necessarily something that crosses your mind. And like we're so used to it as women, like that it's not even something that it's so hard to convey to somebody that doesn't live in some type of like anxiety or fear about their well-being at any given time. Like it's hard to convey that if, that's not necessarily like your existence.
Tell a guy to imagine that he's in a prison shower for the first time. And that's probably as close as we could get.
I mean, I guess I don't want to make it like sound super sad, because I think that like as women, like this is part of what makes us so strong, right? Is that we are able to just feel like, yeah, like I'm constantly aware of my surroundings because I know what can happen if I'm not. So like we are like strong and we notice things and we're very, aware of like of our bodies and like our power. And so I don't want in any way to like make this sound like women are weak, but I will say that because I know what it feels like to be unsafe in comedy spaces, I think that it's important to have spaces and opportunities where we do feel safe, where we're reminded that this is something that can exist for us. And I think that like I would love for more women to talk about that, to talk about these times where, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel safe, it does feel uncomfortable, like because then we can at least like normalize the conversation. And that's something that doesn't happen enough. And that's why there's so many, sort of like careless jokes about male comics getting Me Too'd, or, like, I don't know, like, I won't come too close to you because like, I don't want to get accused of sexual assault. Like, I think that if there was like more of an understanding of like the severity of what it feels like to be unsafe and like how it happens in spaces that, that male comics can freely go and just never feel that way, then like maybe we can just sort of like normalize like this is bad and it happens. And, as a man, like let me be a little bit more aware of like when another, woman is made to feel uncomfortable, like let me call it out in the moment. Because if we had more of that, then I think we would have a lot more of that unity that I was talking about.
Yeah, because I don't think it gets called out in the moment. I think it gets talked about, obviously.
It gets talked about later, yeah.
And females and whatever, and then that's how rumors start and all that other bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But if it got called out in the moment, you could address it right there, and then
exactly.
It would be better unity. Yeah. And
also, like, I will say, like, sorry, I'm almost done. To like any male comic that does like listen and that thinks that they're doing something when they call up a female comic and they're like, yeah, I heard what so-and-so did the other night and it made me super uncomfortable. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if it made you uncomfortable now. I don't care that you're telling me now, because you knew it made you uncomfortable then. You didn't say shit and you had more power than I did in the situation. Yeah. So don't think that you're doing anything when you're telling a woman that something made you uncomfortable because it made her unsafe. So just, be stronger, be aggressive, be in the know.
Yeah, I think Ed Mina nailed it on the head when we had him on. He was like, hey guys, stop being assholes. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Not everyone wants to fuck you guys.
Really? Really?
Not just because you're doing comedy and I'm doing comedy doesn't mean that we should have sex.
I thought all comedians had low self-esteem. I didn't know they were cocky.
We still have standards, some of us. We may have low self-esteem, but there's still standards. And it's awkward too, seeing someone. It's like sleeping with a coworker or a neighbor. You have to see that person all the time. And what if it ends awkwardly?
Oh, that's hot.
I only know that
I should have thought about that before I got in my situation, but
right.
It's good advice.
Right. I felt like maybe when I started comedy, like I was easily preyed upon, and I just wanted to fit in.
So I did.
I'm older in that shit. It's like, fuck you guys.
Yeah. I fucked the unfunniest comics when I first started to stand up, and gross.
Well, isn't that called a chuckle fucker according to Robert Barry?
I mean, I don't know if it's called a chuckle fucker if you are also a stand up, but
that's true.
I don't know. It was not. Oof. I have one comic friend that knows, and he loves to bring it up, and I'm just like, man.
Right. And like I've told all my male comic friends, like females talk. We talk way more than you guys. So like,
we know.
If you fuck someone, I know. Yeah, I know. Like I may not know directly, but I know.
Yeah.
So it's like, really, if you send a dick pic, I've probably seen it.
That's real. Yep. That's
like you don't know how tangled the web weave is between these female comics. So go ahead, try it. Let me try it. Because we all got our own stories.
I wish people could see Sharon's face when she said, if you sent a dick pic, we've all seen it. He was like, oh, shit.
Saying.
It should be assumed.
It should be.
It really should at this point. I mean, with technology,
Unity.
It'll be on a website. Fuck it.
Happens.
Well, Becky, I got to say thank you for coming on. I've been looking forward to this a lot. You got
spectacular.
And you're very well respected within the local community. We've had people say you're their favorite comic. When I posted on Instagram, I will randomly tag radio stations every now and then. Nobody responded to me, but when I tagged you and said you played Cap City, 102.5 actually responded, was like, we fucking love Becky.
Oh,
that's awesome.
So again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And we'll be back next week.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Later.
Bye. Stay
Take
safe.
care, Becky.